And now to talk about former President Duterte's arrest, we have the Hague Academy of International Law alumnus, Attorney Dino Singson de Leon. Sir, magandang umaga and welcome to Morning Matters.
Good morning and nice to see you again.
Yes, sir. Sir, let me start with this. Ito, kagabi si Sal Panelo, dating spokesman ni Pangulong Duterte, ang sabi niya magsasampa sila ng kaso sa Korte Suprema to get the court to order the government to bring back the former president dahil illegal daw yung pagkakapaalis sa kanya at pagkaka-aresto. What do you think? Is that possible at all?
I think it's going to be a moot and academic question, no? As rightly pointed out a while ago by Senator Trillanes. May tinatawag tayo in law na coercive jurisdiction of a court, no, including the Supreme Court. And in this particular instance, once considering that President Duterte will now be turned over in The Hague, that is outside of the coercive jurisdiction of our local courts. That is to say that our local courts cannot order a foreign entity to do its bidding, right?
In layman's terms, wala na magagawa.
Walang magagawa. Fait accompli, no? At paano niyo kahit i-order niya yung Philippine government, even the Philippine government, once it turns over Mr. Duterte to the International Criminal Court, wala na rin siyang jurisdiction yun, hindi niya na rin control. So the Philippine government can also not do anything the moment that they turn over President Duterte to The Hague.
Understood, sir. Pero ibang bagay yung wala na magagawa versus maaari pa bang magkaroon ng finding, if at all, ang Korte Suprema na mali ang ginawa ninyo? Would that be possible? I mean, if you look at the law and you look at how things happen with the law, would that even be possible?
It's possible. It's arguable, no? My reading is the Philippines was just abiding with its obligation to the Interpol, no? And that is to turn over as soon as possible, as soon as practicable, a fugitive already being searched by an international organization. And the warrant of arrest was coursed through the Interpol, no? I don't believe, as a practicing lawyer, no, that the Rome Statute still applies. Kasi sinasabi doon sa Rome Statute, dapat dalhin muna doon sa korte ng custodial state. But we already withdrew from the International Criminal Court, or from the Rome Statute. So that means that it would be wrong to take a look at the rules of the ICC as if it still applies to us. So what is our obligation therefore? Our obligation is with the Interpol, and yun yung applicable. And based on Interpol rules, the moment that a red notice is released, we should forthwith deliver that particular person.
Word again.
I'm just using that word again.
That word. Yeah. But sir, regardless of what the Rome Statute says or what the ICC says, did we follow local laws? Did we follow local procedures? Because in the end, baka naman dun sumabit. I mean, baka naman dun sabihin ng Korte, whether Korte Suprema or an RTC or Court of Appeals, na this was the process specified by law, and did we follow it at all?
Well, alam mo, right now, no, this is in the case of Marcos versus Manglapus. No? Marcos versus Manglapus, if you recall, President Aquino prevented the return of the Marcoses when they wanted to return. And it was called, yung doctrine doon was the residual powers of the president to make sure that there's peace and order, to ensure that public welfare is protected. No? The president has awesome powers, and that is part of his prerogative. And at that point in time, when nakita niya na kailangan immediate ang transfer, if the transfer will actually happen at all, then that is within the wisdom and prerogative of the president. And at the same time, nothing was stopping the president. You know, the Supreme Court had the chance as well to issue a TRO because they were able to read the petition, no? And until 1103, there was no TRO issued by the Supreme Court. So at that point in time, nothing was preventing the president from abiding with our international obligations under the Interpol.
Nag-aabang nga yung mga abogado ni Pangulong Duterte sa Supreme Court kahit gabi.
Correct.
And we were wondering last night, may tao pa ba sa Supreme Court at the time? And I thought the declaration was irraffle, which means that it's going to take a bit of time.
Yeah, pero bago kasi i-raffle, pagkasubmit, pwede na kasi mag-issue ang Supreme Court ng TRO. The raffling is another thing. Diba? But they can issue a TRO. You know, this was all over the news. Ang dami na nating analysis. Diba? So, of course, all the justices were aware of this. Diba? And they could have issued a TRO if they wanted to. Right? But at that point in time, wala. So, it was the prerogative of the president as a chief executive to implement our obligations under the Interpol, consistent as well with his residual powers under the case of Marcos versus Manglapus.
So in a way, yung hindi pag-issue ng immediate TRO ng Supreme Court is already in itself a decision.
Well, pwede sila mag-issue pero too late. Fait accompli, di ba? At that point in time, the president has already exercised his prerogative to turn over forthwith.
That word again.
Mr. Duterte.
Obviously, wala na siya dito eh. So, kahit mag-issue ng TRO, there's nothing to restrain anymore.
Nothing to restrain anymore. Pero alam mo, no, nakakatuwa lang isipin na kung mapapansin mo, di ba, grabe yung lahat sila parang kahapon. Where's the due process? Lahat. Grabe yung panaghoy ng due process kahapon. No? Those due process was not accorded to all the victims of the drug war then. So, maybe ang lesson din, kahit na sino pang, politician, leader, no, you shouldn't take the human rights seriously because there will come a time that you will need to invoke this. Ito yung sinasabi natin sa human rights community na human rights are indivisible. You cannot just apply it to one or when it is convenient. No? Whether or not you disagree or agree with that particular person, you respect due process, you respect his human rights. Ang nangyari, di ba? Summarily killing, para silang hindi tao, para silang hindi, di ba, citizen, mamaya nung trinato, makikita mo pinagpapatay na lang, no? Biglang ngayon, all of a sudden, importante pala ang due process.
Well, I do remember the former president in some of his speeches, and even in his SONA, deriding the concept of human rights and even at times threatening human rights defenders. I mean, in his public speeches, and that's also on record. So that also puts him in an awkward situation now. But also at the same time, on the other hand, whether or not certain people respect human rights or disrespect human rights, in the end. I suppose we also want them to have their rights.
Correct.
And in this particular case, which brings us to that question again. In this particular case, was the former president's human rights, were the former president's human rights at all violated in what happened yesterday?
I don't think, sir. There was a valid warrant of arrest. In fact, the service of the warrant of arrest was very professional. Kahit nagmumura na si Kitty Duterte, hindi siya pinatulan. There was no violence whatsoever. Binasahan siya ng Miranda rights, pinadoktor siya. And then afterwards, dinala siya comfortably sa The Hague. And it's not as if he doesn't have any remedies anymore. He still has remedies under international law. And let's also all remember, and ito yung medyo false dichotomy na ginagawa kasi ngayon ng yung mga rhetoric na nakikita mo, no? Ang sinasabi nila is this is an affront to our sovereignty. All of a sudden, again, very ironic, di ba? Sovereignty is now important. Pero in the issue of the West Philippine Sea, it was the arbitral ruling was just a piece of paper according again to Mr. Duterte. Pero ang sinasabi kasi nila is hindi raw dapat yung foreigners, yung mga puti ang nag-i-impose sa atin ng justice, no? But I think that is they're hugely mistaken because part of our Constitution, remember Ed, Article 2, Section 2 of the 1987 Constitution, international law is part of the law of the land. We call that in the study of law the doctrine of incorporation. What does that mean? No? It means that this international mechanism is actually our mechanism as a people, as a Filipino people, no? And that means hindi pwedeng sabihin na hindi yan sa atin. Kasama yan. And in fact, the Constitution says so, which is the highest expression of the collective will of the sovereign Filipino people. No? So it is absolutely wrong to say that international law is not part of us or it's being imposed on us. No, it's actually part of the law of the land.
But you're part of the community of nations
Correct.
to begin with. Pero sir, okay, let's move forward. Okay, the former president is supposed to arrive in The Hague, I don't know, maybe 6 or 7 hours from now. I suppose, if you run us through the process, pagdating niya doon, mukhang dire-diretso na yun hanggang katapusan ng trial.
Depende, no? The first thing is magkakaroon muna siya ng preliminary appearance. In the preliminary appearance, babasahan siya ng rights niya. And then at the same time, ito yung parang arraignment natin. Diba? Babasahin yung charges, babasahin